the biggest entrepreneur platform on the planet. This is Business Rockstars. We are the biggest entrepreneur platform on the planet. Welcome to Business Rockstars. Joining me right now, Rasto Ivanic. He is the CEO of GroupSolver. Thanks for being here.
I'm happy to be here.
So what is GroupSolver?
Well, GroupSolver is an intelligent market research platform. You can think of us as a survey monkey with a human brain. And essentially what we do is we make the survey experience, which traditionally is not very pleasant, a little bit more automated using AI, machine learning, and crowdsourcing to make that process much more insightful and easier.
So you work with a lot of businesses and entrepreneurs. What are the main things that they would use GroupSolver for?
So we like to help, and we usually help our customers understand their customers better. So typical things like product development. What features should I put in my new product? Or even naming of a new company. We've done some of those. Anything that has to do with difficult, hairy, big, open-ended questions that you really need to understand in order to be successful as a business. So besides product development, you can think about marketing campaigns. We've evaluated logos and told our customers why certain logo works, why certain doesn't. Messaging, marketing messaging. When you say something to your customer base, what do they actually hear? And what would they like what information they would like to get instead of what you're providing them? All kinds of things. I mean, that's what makes it fun for us every day, is that every question is unique.
So give me an overview of your entrepreneurial journey and how it led you to starting GroupSolver.
Well, I think it started way back when I was fresh out of grad school and I joined a big consulting firm. And my job was to ask some of these questions, but instead of having technology, I just had a pen and a piece of paper, and I was interviewing, like you interviewing me. I was interviewing customers, managers, other people, and then my job was to take all that feedback in and make something out of it. So I was the black box, and then I would give them recommendation based on what I heard. So there was always something that bothered me because I felt, look, there's technology these days. You have so much more computing power. You have these cool algorithms that are being developed. So how can why are we still using pen and pencil and just a bunch of interviews if we can we automate it? Can we make it more scalable? And so that was the start. So when eventually this job went away and one more went away, then I really thought about what I really want to do in life. And this nagging problem about how do we solve these difficult, hairy problems came back to me, and I said, well, why don't we give it a start? So myself and my brother, we both are kind of geeks. We both have PhDs in applied economics, and we like to solve problems. So we said, why not? And we just started tinkering, and that's how it all started.
What's the best part about being your own boss?
Well, first of all, you're never your own boss. There's always somebody else who's your boss, right?
And actually, that's a really good point, because it sounds really sexy to be your own boss, but there's always people to answer to, if nothing else, your customers. So please expand on that.
I'm glad you mentioned customers, because at the end of the day, everything that we do, it only makes sense if there is somebody on the other side who absolutely loves what you do and is willing to pay you money. Now, loving is one thing, paying money is another thing. If you do things right, they do both. And that's when you have a business rather than an experiment. So, yeah, but starting a business and being your own boss, there's a lot of, the best part is the same thing as the worst part. Because what I love most is building the team and having, being able to shape how the culture turns out to be, building the product with people who are smarter than me. I love that very much. But it also comes with responsibility, because you start bringing people on as you're being more successful, as revenue goes, and you get some investors. But everybody who comes to join your dream, you have a responsibility to make sure that you are guiding them, that they're going to have a job tomorrow. So it's kind of a tension between the beauty and the stress of it.
Yeah, absolutely. If you could go back in time to your early entrepreneurial days, what advice would you give yourself?
Well, I kind of feel that we have not succeeded yet completely to give myself an advice that I would want to listen to. But, I think just staying focused. There's some of the very basic things. Staying focused on the customer. it's very easy for especially problem-solving engineering minds to just really get down to the features of the product and the cool technology solution. And we struggle with it all the time. But focus on the customer. Who's, at the end of the day, who is going to open the wallet and give you money for what you have done? That's your ultimate reward. And I think not every decision, it's impossible that every decision starts with that, but every major decision when it comes to product or the strategy of the company has to start with having those conversations with your customers, understanding your customers, and never lose sight that at the end of the day, it's not the investors, it's not your friends and family who are going to make the revenue grow. It's the customers. So that is the biggest piece of advice I would give anyone.
Absolutely. If you were to create a startup toolkit, what would be inside of it?
So there are a few things. One of them I'll put on the side, which is kind of a legal thing that nobody ever thinks about: how to allocate shares, how to start a company, where to incorporate. So that should be a part of it. You kind of deal with it once or twice in your life, and it's kind of a big surprise when you get to it. But then the other two big parts of the toolkit is the lean product canvas. And then the other one is there's various different models around customer-led development. It was very helpful to me, having gone through a couple of workshops where it really clicked for me that every decision that you make needs to be driven by the customer. And so having some framework that you can always refer to and kind of be your North Star is what are we doing? Is it getting us to that end? Is it getting us to a successful customer? So some sort of that should be part of that toolkit.
Yeah. Do you ever fear failure, and have you ever been close to quitting?
I have never been close to quitting, for good or bad. And I think that's a kind of a common characteristic of founders, startup people. They always they hold on until the very end.
You have to have perseverance.
You gotta have to. So never been close to quitting. The biggest fear is it's as you grow, the responsibility grows, and things that you used to be able to do whenever you got to it, or without asking anyone or consulting anyone, those days are starting to be over now. So every decision has more weight. You have more people who depend on you. So I think the fear goes along with the excitement. They balance each other out. You have to have both. You have to be paranoid every morning, but not to the extent that you cannot sleep at night. And there are those days you can imagine. But on balance, you have to be a little bit paranoid, but always excited in the morning to get up and get going.
I like it. Well, we're going to take a short break and come back, talk about building the business. So we'll be back in just a little bit. We are the biggest entrepreneur platform on the planet. This is Business Rockstars. We are the biggest entrepreneur platform on the planet. Welcome back to Business Rockstars. I'm continuing my conversation with the CEO of GroupSolver. Now, you shared the story behind the idea, but was there a specific moment or instance that you went, I just have got to start this business? Actually,
there was. And it was funny because it was not exactly what GroupSolver is now. But I remember I was listening to an NPR story about some global summit about environment and stuff, and they talked about how many thousand people came to Rio, I believe, to decide how we're going to solve global warming. And they came out with like 3,000-page memo of what a solution should be. And I was thinking, there must be a better way to get this condensed into a few really basic principles we can all agree on. And I called up my brother, and I said, hey, wouldn't that be cool to do? And he never says no to anything challenging, so we just said, okay, and we maybe spent an hour on the phone, so started talking what's possible. And I think that was the moment where I can say it started to get, the idea started boring in my head a little bit bigger. And I would say that this is the kind of impetus that led to this whole thing getting off the ground. Yeah, so you've since raised money, but in those early days, were you guys self-funded, or how did you get the capital to first get going? Well, fortunately, when you're doing software and when you are building an algorithm, you don't need that much capital. You just need a couple of people who are willing to just play with things. And so my brother and myself, we funded the early goings, maybe $50,000 or something of that over a period of a year, just to pay for the patent and get a little bit of help coding. Then we found it a unique opportunity to apply for grants from a Gates Foundation, because they were looking for some innovating solutions to help with global hunger. And so we got a grant, which helped us to really get a really big boost, hire a couple of people who actually do real coding with us. We got us into an incubator. And that was pretty much it for a little while. And then when we felt like we had the first couple of customers who who said, yeah, I pay money for it. They actually paid us money for it. Then we said, okay, we are ready to start raising some money because we need to grow faster. The industry doesn't stop. They don't wait for you to have the perfect idea. And so we raised a couple of rounds, one angel round, one seed round, kind of all blended together. I think the total was a little between $1 and $2 million. And the whole process took maybe a year and a half. We really wanted to make sure we first know how to spend the money, what we want to do with it before we go out there and raise real cash, because there's responsibility with that.
Yeah, so any advice on raising money?
Well, I think I'm sure that every deal is different. I mean, we felt like what we were doing was not the sexiest thing to do, the market research and making surveys better. So we have to be very good at laying out what our good investor would look like for us. What would they need to believe in to be a good fit? So know who you want to invest. You need to know who your investor, what your investor looks like, and then have the right story and numbers to back it up. And so during the fundraising process, we made sure that we had all our ducks in a row. We said, this is what we're going to do. And 6 months later, when we talked to the investor, we actually did that. So that, building credibility with somebody you don't know. It's at the end of the day, it's a very personal process. And I feel that because of that, because we knew what type of investment and type of investor we wanted to get, it made this process much less painful. We didn't have to go through so many meetings.
Yeah, you bring up a really good point. A lot of times businesses think that the investors have all the control, but it's equally as powerful to know exactly what you want in an investor as well, because then you can attract the right fit.
I agree with you. You put yourself in the shoes of the investor. Like, they want to see confidence. They want to hear from you. What have you done? Where are you going? Why is it important? And do I trust you? It's kind of like, you want to know that the Uber driver has a driver's license, right? And so coming with confidence, even though they might not understand 100% what your business is or business model, but having the right team, showing traction and showing the passion usually is what kind of gets you to the next conversation that you start really talking about the numbers and dollars and cents.
Tell me a little bit more about your work culture and how you hire to make sure that people are a good fit for your work culture.
Yeah, so we hire for fit, first of all, and for the just kind of intrinsics. We are essentially creating our own industry. Market research has been doing surveys for the longest time, and so there's a certain way of doing things. And so there's nobody with a perfect resume for us. But what we also know that what got us into startups and what is making us successful is the passion and then the drive to know where we want to go and actually taking the journey. So when we hire for people who have, of course, you have the fundamental skills, the basic skills, but then is it person willing to learn? Are they able to communicate really well? Are they willing to be challenged? Or are they going to shut down? Like, if you challenge me, then I'm not going to talk anymore. So we have of course we made mistakes, but at the end of the day, people who stay with the company and who are making the company successful are those who really embrace this culture. Mm-hmm. Skills you can learn. We are very patient with training and getting people to the place that they can contribute and be very productive, but they have to be happy.
Great insight. Well, thank you so much for stopping by
Sure.
and sharing all your business wisdom with us. Really appreciate it.
My pleasure.
Absolutely. We're the biggest entrepreneur platform on the planet. This is Business Rockstars.